getting to.
Yes. It's a process. Zahn is just really helping. He's been such a good sport. I don't even know if he really wants to be a part of it, but I just ask him, and he does. All right, so let's get started.
You are camera ready. Got that face beat up like.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Collective. This is our third episode. I am your host, Tiara Williams, along with my co-host,
Hudson.
And we have with us a very special guest, Miss Vicki Carlton Sadler. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you guys? Good.
So, if you all don't know, Miss Vicki, she is the leader of the Women's Empowerment Group, and she's also a lawyer.
I am.
Awesome. You have your own law firm.
I do. You
That's
did your
amazing.
research.
I did. I tried. I thought that was amazing because, you're very interactive on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just something about you. I was just like, you know what? Let me just interview her to see what she's got going on and stuff like that.
Awesome.
This is our way of like getting the leaders to kind of know each other more personally, because at our meetings we don't really get to talk to each individual person. So we're glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here. And that's a really good point. So this is awesome.
Great. So when did you know that you had a passion for law?
Well, probably very early on, probably in my undergraduate years, although I did not pursue law right after college.
Okay.
I was a very young mother, and I was raising my daughter. I had her actually when I was 17 years old.
Okay.
And so I went back to school late. It was probably 10 years after I graduated from high school that I went to college. And then 10 years after that I went to law school because I had to wait to get her into medical school.
Wow.
And so we had a big journey.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So when I got her to medical school, that's when I was able to finally pursue my dream of becoming a lawyer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how hard was it to, once you got to the point where you decided, okay, I want to be a lawyer, like how did it look to actually have the firm manifest? Like how was the process?
How did I get from law school to law firm on my own? That was a big process. Okay. So right out of law school, I was hired by a large firm, and I worked in a large firm environment for about 8 years. And it's a tough environment in terms of you basically are billing so many hours. You give your life to the firm. And it wasn't a very good balance for me because I'm very family oriented. And by this time, my daughter had a daughter. And so I had to be there for my granddaughter, and I was just thinking, this is just too much, and there has to be more to life than this. I went to law school with the intention on becoming a public interest lawyer. So I always had it on my heart. I wanted to help people. I wanted to give back to my community. I wanted to be the voice for the unheard and all of that. And unfortunately, they dangled that carrot of very high salary in front of me and promised me that I would be able to do pro bono work as well, that they would support my pro bono efforts. And they did. When I first got to the firm, I had a 6-month fellowship with Atlanta Legal Aid Society. And so I did that, and my passion grew. But then the firm work pretty much took over, and I had very little opportunities to do the type of work that I really wanted to do. And so once you start into a lifestyle that's, high end like that, you kind of almost get trapped because you start buying the houses and you start buying the cars, and then suddenly you have to maintain all of that. So you're trapped and you can't just walk away because you've incurred debt. And so that was one big lesson I learned. It's like, I only need to do what really makes me happy and not do what it looks like I'm supposed to be doing based on whatever, society says or whatever societal norms look like. So anyway, I left the firm and then was given the opportunity to teach. And I thought, oh yeah, I could do that. Mm-hmm. So I went to John Marshall Law School and I taught for about 5 years. Okay. And when I got done with that, I just wanted to do my own thing. And I wanted to pursue some other passions that I have, which include acting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought the best way to do that was to actually, be able to be my own boss, and also that way I could go out on auditions, mm-hmm. and I could do other things. So I actually opened my firm in 2011 at the very same time that I was asked to teach. So I had my firm, but I only had like part-time work going on because I was teaching, and it's a lot. So it wasn't until I left academia that it was probably 2016 that I could really get my firm my full-time attention. So now I'm in the firm full-time, and it is such a blessing. Okay. It is a blessing. Okay. So I can do what I want to do. I can choose the cases that interest me or those that really, people can't, get their story out there or their legal issue heard or resolved, or sometimes they just don't even have the money to have a voice. Right. So that's really a blessing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So why? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm inspired.
Okay.
Question I was gonna have for you is, how would you describe God's timing just through all of that?
Amazing. It's always amazing. Early on, I was really just fighting in terms of timing, because I thought that at my age, I should be further along. I should be at my age doing X, Y, and Z. And that wasn't happening for me. And I just felt like there was a delay after delay after delay. But at the same time, I knew that I was doing what I had to do in the time that I was doing it. But it was frustrating personally. But then, when I look back, it's not until you go through it and have an opportunity to look back that you realize God's plan was in perfect order. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what drew you to the discipleship group ministry? Well, first of all, how long have you been at Word of Faith?
So I came to Word of Faith, I want to say probably around 2006 or 7. Yeah. Okay. And I was sitting in those pews for years, mm-hmm. and doing nothing but coming and going and coming and going, enjoying myself, of course, but not really serving. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, because I like to sing, that I was going to join the choir. Okay. So I joined the choir, and I probably served there maybe about 6 months or so, probably not even a whole year. I could not commit to the schedule, the rehearsal schedules. I had to work and just, things. So that was a little too rigorous for me, though I did enjoy it. So I left the choir, and then, I don't know, maybe some months later, Bishop said, we need to get this small group thing going, and we need small group leaders. And it was a Thursday night, I'll never forget it. And he was saying, this was before we had True Talk, of course. Okay. And he was saying, my Thursday night people, you guys that are here on Thursday, you are my, core congregation, and it's you that I'm really speaking to and calling out to serve in this way. And God just spoke to me and said immediately, it was no thinking about it, no let me pray about it, no anything. I got a word right there, go and sign up for this. Okay. And so I did, and I really didn't know what I was signing up for, like what I was in for. Mm-hmm. I didn't anticipate all the things that has come my way because of this ministry. I just thought, I need to be doing something. I need to serve, and I'm going to go out here and sign up. I mean, it was literally no more thought given to it than that.
Okay. So why did you choose the Women's Empowerment Group? Why did you decide to choose that title for your group?
I chose that title because I believe that women of color sometimes have difficulty empowering each other. And that makes me sad.
Yeah.
It makes me sad, and I don't really understand it. I mean, people give all kind of theories about why we don't support each other and all of that, historically, how it developed. But I believe that does not have to be our truth.
I believe that too.
And that's not going to be my truth. So I decided that I needed to name it that in order to sort of open up and dispel that whole attitude and theory of thought.
Okay.
That we can be empowering to each other.
Right.
And interestingly, in my group, when my group first started, I had several women who said on the first day and continued to say, even after a year, maybe 2 years, I don't really like women. I don't really have relationships with women. I don't trust women. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, you're in the right place. You're exactly where you're supposed to be because you are exactly who I wanted to speak to.
Right. So how has that, your desire to speak to those women and, be the opposite of the norm, how has that, how has your group grown from that?
Well, it obviously it takes time. And as you know, my group is going into its 3rd year with most of its original members. And so those women who had the initial distrust of other women just had to see, I believe, over time, how supportive we could be of each other.
Right.
And so I tried to create opportunities for support and set an example of what that looks like, because maybe they didn't know what that looked like because they've never had that support. They've only experienced negative things when they were trying to build their career or trying to have a relationship, or even may have been hurt by another woman. And so over time, I just, we worked through that group me thing app. And so, just making sure to recognize people on their special day or achievement and make a big deal out of it and show up for them when they have things going on in their lives and encourage others to do the same.
Right.
And so it's just a getting to know a person, I think, and taking the time to do that and understanding we're not really that different.
Right.
We all have goals. We all have dreams. We all have hopes. And we all want support. And all we really want is love and support. There is nothing different about us in that regard.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting that you brought that up with building each other up. Do you think that it's hard for women in general to get their goals met? Do you feel that beauty gets in the way of women trying to meet their objectives in their careers or in ministry, anything that they really want to do? When people just see them and they automatically think, oh, well, she thinks she's all that, or she's pretty but she has no brain, or she's creative, or she's gifted, or she sounds intelligent, but she's really not.
It can be a hurdle, and You probably have struggled with that. You're a beautiful woman. I've struggled with that. It's hard. And I think it's just, again, it's a matter of, one, you can't be discouraged by what other people say or think about you, because 9 times out of 10, they don't really know you.
Right.
And I think you just have to carry God in your heart all the time, and know that He has His plan set for you, and nobody can deter Him for what His intention is for your life. And I think if you just continually rely on that, and personally, I used to, especially when I was younger, would want to seek approval, to show people, hey, no, I'm not that girl that you think I am. There's more to me than just this. And so I would kind of go out of my way, and that turned out to lead me to becoming a people pleaser.
Okay.
So that led down a whole different road of sort of pain and heartache, because you're spinning your wheels all the time. You want acceptance, you want love, you want to be seen for who you really are. You feel very misunderstood a lot, and you just want people to see you inside as opposed to outside. But as I got older, I realized that as long as I'm embracing my authentic self and showing that to the world, then they will see me as I am and who I am intended, who God intended me to be.
That's a good point.
So but that took a lot of time and growth and maturity. Yeah.
Zion, did you have anything?
No, I was just gonna add, even with all that, it kind of sucks when you're in front of somebody and you're really just trying to be validated, and you really do want that approval. So it's like if somebody else is clouding judgment over you, it's like they automatically have that over themselves too. So it's just kind of funny when that person brings the cloud that they have over themselves over to you, and that's the part that we kind of get into confusion so much, is because it just kind of sucks it all the way around, just because you just don't want that. And it's like you have the external, but you really want to be validated by the internal.
Yeah. So it's like, well, how can people actually see your internal? By your works. Like God says, a man, you don't have to tell somebody who you are. They will know who you are by your works. And so I just rest on that. And not everybody, and I also accept that not everybody is going to see you. They don't want to. They have blinders on, or whatever the reason is. We never know what other people have gone through, or what their attitudes or mindsets are, how they developed in that place, or anything. And we have no control over it.
Right.
And so all we can do is live the way we know we're supposed to live. And love me or don't.
Yeah. Take me or leave me.
Exactly.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And you know what? I think it's pretty great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how did you get into acting? Like, at what point did you start to actually take acting seriously?
Oh, Lord. So I've always been on the stage since elementary school.
Okay.
And, but could not pursue it, didn't think I could pursue it and raise a child as a single mom.
Okay.
So I had to do what I thought was necessary to be able to take care of her.
Okay.
Even though I was a young mom, I was a super responsible mom.
That's good.
And so I took it very seriously. And so I just put it on a back burner and did what I thought was necessary to feed her, clothe her, house her, make sure she was educated, and those types of things. And so through my Atlanta Bar Association, we have what's called the Bard Show. And we have this all-lawyer, it's a musical comedy, and it's put on about once every year and a half. And so I became involved in that, and I was able to sing and dance and hang out with other great lawyers of great talent. And I realized, hey, I'm not the only lawyer that have these aspirations.
Right.
So it's always been fun to get together with them and do those shows. So I've probably done about 4 or 5 of those shows.
Okay.
And they're super fun. But then my husband was like, after I left teaching, he said, it's time. And I was like, yeah? He's like, yeah, it's time for you to get serious about this. This is your joy. I see it.
Aww,
I
so
see
sweet.
it. Yeah. And he said, I'll support you, whatever you want. He said, even if you want to leave the law, I will support you. And I couldn't envision being a starving actress. Now I wouldn't starve. He would take care of me. But it's hard to give up your independence when you've always been independent, and we've only been married 10 years. And so it's like, ugh. But so I wasn't able to give it up fully, but I started taking acting classes probably about 2015, 2016, and I've been taking my classes, and now my goal is to get some really good headshots and submit my work to an agent to see if I can get an agent and really start auditioning for things.
Awesome, especially with all the new filming that's been going on in Atlanta and around Atlanta. Even
in the perfect place.
Back to timing, right?
Right.
And I think about that timing thing. When I was younger, I had no discipline. I was in the wilderness. I was wild. I was hanging out with all the wrong people, doing all the wrong things. Had I been blessed with a career in music or theater or acting, I probably wouldn't even be alive right now.
Wow.
I would be
so everything
Whitney.
happens,
I would be dead.
Yeah.
I already know that. I would be dead.
Yeah.
It would have been a fast life. I would have died young and made a beautiful corpse.
Wow.
So I'm glad it's now, because now, like you said, the timing in Atlanta is great. And somebody, there's always a role for people in my age group. So I'm just happy about it.
Okay. So have you met anyone have you met any actors that we've seen on screen or anything like that?
So I've met lots of, let's say, vocalists.
Okay.
And I've met lots of comedians.
Okay.
But I haven't met any big actors. Like I did Barbershop 3 as an extra. Okay. And so I, saw Ice Cube, but I never got an introduction to him. But I've met, I'm trying to think I haven't met any big actresses or actors yet.
It's so funny because me and Zahn, our group meets, we were supposed to be meeting at the Epicenter once a month. And every time we try to go there, they're shooting something. They're filming every Tuesday. Every Tuesday evening, there's lots of clothes. They have their trailers out there. They're filming. They want us to be quiet because they're shooting.
Right.
So we've just decided that we probably won't be meeting there anymore. But it's just interesting because I never thought that they would be shooting movies consecutively out there at the Epicenter, but they are.
It's all the time. Yeah. It's just all the time. And I was recently in a film, and we got to go on Tyler Perry's studio.
That's awesome.
And on his set, and it was just, I was just like,
that's amazing.
It was so amazing. It
was
was
a dream for me.
It is. Do you want to act?
I mean, I just want to meet Tyler Perry, and I just want to be in his world.
I know. And I follow him on Instagram, and just his posts is and wait a minute, did you see his interview when he came to Word of Faith?
I did.
Oh yes, that Thursday True Talk. Oh my God, yes. And so it's it's his inner man. That's just so amazing to me, and he is so just spirit led.
Yeah.
You know, and when he talked about having, you know, put those scriptures in the ground right when you cross over the arch, that where you enter into the studio, so that
I must have
basically
missed that part.
everybody that
was
comes
beautiful.
in
That's
is
amazing.
blessed. You know, I'm like,
That's amazing.
the man, you know, he is. Yes,
And
I will.
even with that, I'm like, that's not something you just think about when you're
No.
on. That's directly from God.
No, I mean, you know, when you be like all frantic about getting the thing up and getting it exactly the way you wanted it, but who would think, let me plant this right here, so that anybody coming in here that's crossing into this path, over this path, into my world, you know, you got to go over those words. So
Yeah.
it gave me chill bumps. I was like, yeah, Tyler's my dude.
Yeah. He's definitely an inspirational person for sure.
Yeah.
One of the posts that you put on Facebook was about your group volunteering at a senior living facility, and you guys celebrated one of the women's birthdays there. I thought that was so sweet. So tell me how that came about.
So last year and the year before, we only did a couple of outreach projects. Like, my group members were saying, oh yes, we want to do outreach, And so one of the things that I did was, you know, one of our goals is to develop leaders. And so I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to give them a leadership opportunity, right?
Okay.
So last year I created these committees. So I was like, okay, I'm creating a outreach committee, I'm creating the birthday club committee,
Okay.
I'm creating the social committee, and all of these committees, right? And so I left it up to the committee to put together an agenda for what our outreach projects would be.
Okay.
And it just sort of fell apart. It didn't happen. We ended up doing, I think, one project at Kate's Club, which I love Kate's Club. It's a organization that helps children who have lost their parent or a significant caretaker.
Okay.
And so we did that, and then it just never materialized.
Okay.
And so this year I said, well, you know what? I'm just going to take the bull by the horns, and I'm just going to put on our calendar at least 4 different outreaches events, 1 a quarter, and if you can come, and if you can't make it, we all understand. But we're going to do at least 4 outreach projects this year.
Yeah.
And so I put them on the calendar. We have a shared calendar where we try to put everything that's going on in our lives on that calendar. And so we put it on there, and we hit our first one, and we're going to do the second one in May, which is again at Kate's Club.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have a third one, and I can't remember. Oh, I think that's at the Winship Cancer Center.
Okay.
And then our fourth one is we're collecting up throughout the year items that we can use to donate to the homeless. So by the time October rolls around and it starts to get cold, we'll have packages put together that we can go out and distribute to the homeless community.
Awesome. That's a group in action. For real.
Once again, I'm inspired.
Good. I'm glad.
Ask you, I know you've recently done a play. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, the play was this past weekend. It ran on Friday and 2 shows on Saturday, and it was a Monique Shaw production. She's been producing plays. This was actually the 10th anniversary of the play called Will a Real Man Please Stand? And it was a Christian-based play, and I'm sorry for those group leaders that saw it, and I had to say 2 cuss words in it.
Okay.
I felt really bad about that, but my character was a character that actually she developed. So by the end of the play, she was always raised in the church, but she got away from her family. She had 6 husbands by the time she had come back home to really start to get her life together and reconnect with her family and her mom. She was always very close to her mom. And so she was still in that world when that personality had to come out. But by the end of the play, she had changed her life and her ways. But it was really about, my character wasn't a main character, but she was the auntie to a main character. And it was about her life and her wanting to find a real man of God. And how she met this guy, how she, was dating and dated other men who were, fine and seemingly had it together and all of that, but just they were wicked. Just absolutely wicked. And so her man of God didn't look like what she expected, but he was everything that he needed to be for her. So it was a really great production. The cast was amazing. We bonded really well, and it was just a really great experience. So she's talking about doing Real Man 2. And she has another production that's coming up in October, and I think it's called The Secrets We Keep. And so I will probably be in that production as well.
We'll have to come out and see you.
I would love your support.
Yeah, we will. We'll try to be there.
Mary Favors came.
Yeah,
Walker came. So I did have some support from the discipleship group leaders, which made my heart happy, because just in all of about 4 or so of my members volunteered as hostesses there. So just knowing that your people are in the house, you're covered. Your performance is going to be awesome. Nothing's going to go wrong. You just feel covered. So that's how I felt with them in the house. It was awesome.
Well, that's awesome. That's an awesome way to show our love for Miss Vicky. So if she has any plays or anything that that she's doing, please come out and try to support her. We will try to come out and support you too.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. So to your question, I would say to the leaders that this isn't an easy undertaking. The thing that we have chosen to do, the thing that we have been called to do. And so sometimes it will get hard, but don't get discouraged. Never give up, because what God has planned for not only you, but those that you are serving is going to just be mind-blowing. I have seen such deliverance in my group. I have seen such a turnaround. Those women that were saying, I don't like women, love the women in our group. There have been relationships formed, and I think there'll be lifelong relationships, deep relationships. And so I would say, and don't take things personally. Like I'm a bit of a type A person, and I wanted to kind of control things and know what was going on and all of that. But if you just take yourself out of the equation and really just let God work within the group, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So it's going to be more than fine. Okay? It's going to be super fine. It's going to be excellent. It's going to be just mind-blowing. And so I would just say persevere and just don't ever give up. Stay in it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a part of our web series. When you guys see Miss Vicky, say hi to her, support her all of her endeavors. She's living her best life right now. So hopefully we can aspire to be like her one day. But thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love this initiative, and I know it's going to do well. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. I didn't even know there was a YouTube channel. So subscribe. So you should put a little box down there. Right? It says subscribe. Hit this box.
so much.
Thank you so much. So who's up next?